Good morning. How are you? Actually, my voice is a bit croaky from the weekend, so maybe I do need a microphone.
Everyone's is.
Welcome on this beautiful Sunday morning. Look at these beautiful books from the Blaster book series. They are so gorgeous. If you've seen the artwork of them in the grain store, this particular book is about one of my favorite foods of all.
Yes.
Comforting, restorative, nurturing. I mean, and even just looking through the selection of recipes in here, this book, which is by Blanca Valencia, I say Valencia, yes, D. Laffin and May Chin, and soup. What are you going to be making today?
So we are going to make a cherry gazpacho, Spanish cherry gazpacho, which is really one of Blanca's soups that she grew up with, and the Filipino sinigang. Sinigang, yeah. So we're going to talk a lot about those two kind of dishes and the cuisines and what they mean to us and what soup means to us.
That's so lovely. I love this, having the influences from all around the world, from you three. That's fab.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much.
They're so gorgeous, aren't they? The Blaster series of books.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if anyone hasn't seen them. Nikki Hooper is the name of the illustrator with Blaster Books, and she's done such a beautiful display of her illustrations in the grain store. It looks fantastic.
It looks really fantastic.
Yeah, it's so nice.
And I love the poppy colours.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all beautiful. And the Blaster Books are on sale in the bookshop, in the big shed. Get the sale in there.
Are you doing a book signing?
Yeah. We are doing a book signing. After
the demonstration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks.
Actually, that's an interesting thing to just kick off on is, I suppose we are a diverse little group ourselves, a diverse team. And
you think?
Yeah, just a little bit, Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm from Tipperary, from Ireland. Blanca is from Spain.
But I grew up in Latin America.
And May is from
New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York.
Yeah, exactly. So we got together because the guys had actually started a podcast called Spice Bags, which we put little leaflets out on the tables or the benches for you there. If you have our social media or our website, and on there is a blog with loads of shopping guides and things like that, and other recipes and fun interviews with people. But basically, we started Spice Bags, or what Spice Bags was about kind of highlighting diversity in Irish food. It was highlighting communities of people from around the world who were here in Ireland producing food, cooking food, just loving food, or people who were from maybe a mixed heritage in Ireland, and we kind of did lots of episodes on different cuisines within Ireland and different people. So through that, we really kind of got to know a lot of community, a lot of people. And when we decided to pitch to Kristen, the publisher of Blaster Books, to do soup, it kind of naturally, for us, we kind of said, well, every country has a soup. And not only that, I think every person, that's last night now. Sorry. Every person has a soup, like every family. If I ask you guys, what does soup mean to you? Or if you think of the soup that you love, I bet you're thinking of a soup that someone gave you when you were sick, a soup that your grandmother made, your mother made, your father, somebody, like there's a soup that means something to you and your family. And it could be just a variation of a soup from your country. So we all realized we had very, very different opinions about soup, because when we recorded the episode on soup, we almost had a war over it. Yeah. Because for me, growing up in Ireland, where our temperatures aren't as beautiful as they are in Spain, well, they're beautiful in different ways, but gazpacho to me is like my worst nightmare. I mean, like as in a cold soup. Well, it used to be. I love soup.
D. Laffin also drinks hot Ribena. She drinks hot everything.
I didn't realize that Ribena, it's like a cordial in Ireland that was very popular with children, full of sugar. That it was supposed to be served cold, just with water, because my dad always gave it to me with boiling water. And when I went to one of my friend's house for like a sleepover one time, and they served it to me cold, I almost spit it out. I was like, what is this? What cold? You expect me to drink this cold? Anyway, I guess we have soups in Ireland because they're hearty, they're warming. But in Spain, you drink it in a glass.
You drink it in a glass.
Yeah, you want to have it to cool you down, something light. almost
Blanca
like
calls it a smoothie.
almost like a smoothie.
Yeah, it is the original smoothie, yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing we realized with May is that in China, people don't like blended soups. So Dee loves blended soups, I love cold soups, and May loves
it's not China actually, it's more my New York Jewish background.
New York,
It's clear, I like broth in soups. I don't actually like Chinese soups that much.
Oh, you guys had a discussion because you lived in China. That was it.
In China,
you can see how things got heated.
Blended soup is the devil. If you give somebody a blended soup, they really, especially potato and carrot, Chinese people don't get it. They want chunks, and you'll see in the soup we're making, which is Filipino, how they want texture. So that was a thing, texture and the temperature.
So very briefly, just to say, in the end, we created soup and we collated recipes. We put one of each of our own in there, but we collated recipes from friends and people we had met through the podcast.
I was going to say, the thing that I think was really important for us when we were doing soup was actually to make it about the individuals, not about ourselves. And so, in that way, showing the increased diverse Irish communities. And we were actually talking about this last night, which is that Dee kind of took point with more of the well-known chefs, and Blanca and I took point with, the people sort of more behind the scenes, who were making a tremendous impact in Ireland and the community, but might not be so well recognized. Yeah. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Did you guys have a favorite soup?
I think when I was...
A person?
I did a couple of... I'm not sure if there's any really well-known chefs too much in there, but I think with all, from Nigerian soup, from our friend Emmy, because I went and I cooked with her in her kitchen, and I didn't really know anything about Nigerian cuisine. I've never been there before. And so it was a real learning curve for my palate. If anyone's tried Nigerian or West African food, it can be very heat driven. It's lots of different flavors that our palate here in Ireland wouldn't be used to. So for me, it was that was a real journey for me, and I really loved being in the kitchen with her, learning to cook her soups and what they meant to her, and that was just such a lovely thing to be able to put her recipe in there.
Blanca, what about you?
I love Colombian ajiaco. We were very lucky. The ambassador, who is a woman, said, I'm going to show you how to make it, how my mother taught us. So that was an amazing experience. And the BBC wrote an article about how we had gone to the Colombian embassy to learn from the Colombian ambassador. And that soup is made with corn, capers, avocado, and cream. So it's a real fusion food, and it is delicious, especially on a day like today. It's a one-pot meal that is really delicious. That would be the soup that I would love the most.
So we're going to start cooking anyway. We better stop talking. Okay. Otherwise, this isn't a podcast. This is a demo.
Yeah, we love talking. So we're doing Sinigang, which is a Filipino soup, and then the cherry gazpacho, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about
you go away. I'm just going to chop some tomatoes.
And May's going to talk about the Filipino food. So Filipino food is the most fusion food, I think, in the world. It has so many influences. So we chose a soup that meant a lot to the Filipino community, and it's called Sinigang, which is like a stew. And you see Sinigang in different versions. So you could do this with Irish ingredients, but we've gone and gotten okra. So okra, you can grow okra in the Mediterranean, but okra is originally from Ethiopia. Then you have daikon, which is Japanese radish, but it's used in Asia. And I love this also raw. I pretend in Mexico there's a similar thing called jicama, so I use this also as jicama with mango or a little bit of chili powder. So okra, and then they have these beautiful snake beans. And I just love it. And if you see the illustration in the book, and it's in the grain store, we put it like this, and Nikki did the drawing. But it's just a beautiful vegetable.
Yeah.
And
so
then
cool.
This is morning glory. They call it kakalong, and it's like a spinach, yeah?
But it
So-
grows actually in
yeah.
the water, and
Sorry?
it grows in the water.
Yeah.
So because my mother got very excited when I said we're cooking with morning glory, she's like, "That's in our garden right now." I was like, "Mom, I'm fairly sure it's a different plant." So, and it has a hollow stem.
Yeah.
And the Chinese call it hollow stem vegetable,
Yeah.
空心菜.
Nice. Do you want to say a little bit more about the Filipino
I was,
cuisine?
yeah, I think, I mean, again, because Philippines have been colonized and, you know, and there's Malaysian influences, there's Chinese influences, there is Spanish influences, very much so. And then, of course, you have the Americans. And one of the things that was explained to me, too, is that in the Philippines, you know, refrigeration is for everyone is a pretty recent thing. And so therefore, you have very strong flavors. You have strong salt, strong sour, and strong sweet, and that helps preserve the food in hot weather. And I just, you know, and again, and I think that those strong flavors also just, for me, it's vinegar, salt,
Yeah.
you know, these things that, again, help preserve.
And we should
Okay.
mention John
Yeah.
Bueno,
Yeah.
or do you want to do that first and then we'll talk about
So then a very important ingredient in not only Filipino, but in Asia, in India, in Latin America is tamarind. So obviously we can't grow tamarind here. So they have like this powder made out of the tamarind pods. And it's from Knorr, so it looks like packet food, but it really is just dried tamarind that you add to the soup, and it makes it sour. So when we talked to John Bueno, who was the head chef, the executive chef at Guinness Storehouse, he said to use the whole packet. And when we tried it, we were like, no, we can't, it's too sour for us. So we adjusted it a little bit to half, but I would say if you've never had tamarind in savory form, a third of a packet, yeah? So, yeah.
And we were saying one of the interesting things that we noticed when we looked at different cuisines from around the world and we were collating the recipes, we were just saying last night is that, you know, a lot of countries, a lot of cuisines, we would use a packet seasoning, whereas I think sometimes in Ireland, well, anyway, around, you know, everyone promotes cooking something from scratch and not to use packet anything. But I think in other cultures, it's just so common that they would use a lot of seasonings. Again, in Nigeria, they use an awful lot of vegetable seasonings. That was something that we found. And also in the Nigerian soup, there's these dried fish. So they would use like dried lizard fish or dried crayfish. Crayfish is a big one in West African cuisine, and it's a really, really funky kind of flavor. So almost like if you're looking for that kind of blue cheesy kind of funky flavor, it gives it that. It's really nice.
But this is delicious. I love this. And in Latin America, you have this as a drink. Like, I don't know if you've had tamarind juice, or you have like tamarind candy. There's this Mexican one, pulparindo, which is delicious. Like Lily in Picado has it, and we're totally addicted to that. And then they use a version of fish sauce in this soup. So it's a very fresh soup. There's absolutely no fat. You're cooking everything raw, and then you need tiger prawns. But you could do this whole recipe with Irish ingredients. You could use Dublin Bay prawns. You could use peas. You could use spinach. So as long as you have these two are really the main ingredients, yeah. And there's also a version of this with miso, because Philippines has also a miso Japanese influence. So I'll just start doing this while Dee's preparing the gazpacho, and you can talk about the
Can I
ingredients
also just
while
say something about Asian ingredients? I mean,
Yeah.
we sourced all of these ingredients, you know, locally. I mean, we were all based in Dublin. But I think that there has been such a change in the amount of Asian ingredients you can get. And we're talking to one of our friends and contributors, Ashish, and he said, you know, when he got there, you couldn't find coriander. You had to stockpile rice, you know, like, and we had
And that
another
was
guy.
only, what, about like 20 years
20
ago?
years ago, and when Kwanji Chan, who's another friend of ours who's Chinese, he said he remembered having to grow bean sprouts in the bathtub. And so that, you know, so it's come a long way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have got the easy recipe
Yeah,
for
so you
sure,
explain,
and I
yeah.
blended one. No surprise there. But because Irish people love blended soups, we love to just throw a little vegetables together and just have those blended. The cherry gazpacho that's in the book, Blanca, do you want to talk about the cherry aspect of things and like why?
Well-
Like we're doing strawberry today, but
Yeah. Gazpacho normally it's tomato, but in the last 20 years there's been a tendency to do gazpacho with fruit. and you have watermelon, you have melon, and strawberry works really well with Irish strawberries. But I was going to say the key ingredient is the olive oil.
Yes.
It's even more important, and Sarah is here from Sarah and Olive. She has a stall next door, and we're using a monovarietal, which means it's only one variety of olive from the south of Spain, and it's early harvest. It means that the olives are picked really, really young and green, so it has so many polyphenols and vitamins. So I really say, like, this is a huge investment, and use it quickly. Don't keep it because it goes rancid.
Yeah.
And I would say Sarah is one of the few people who sells her old oils at a discount, because a lot of the times, you know, you're buying old olive oil. So she's my trusted source for anything related to olive oil, and now she has some vinegar. So this is Picual, which is the strongest variety of
So we're just
oil,
going to be using 100 mils in this recipe, and it really is, you know, just, it really makes the soup. Yeah, it really does. I don't think you can kind of, you know, you can change some ingredients, but you can't cut corners with this one. So
Also, Blanca, you were talking a little bit, you were educating me about the ideal flavor and smell of olive oil and how it's supposed to smell like tomato stems.
Yeah, so when you go, if you grow tomatoes and you smell this, like high quality olive oil smells like this. And this, in Spanish, this is called tomatera, and it's the tomato leaf smell. So when you're buying olive oil, try and find that smell in the oil. But it means that it's really fresh. So if anybody's really like a super taster or knows a lot about aromas, this aroma is the one that you should be looking for.
Yeah.
So, and also, even though you're not supposed to, some chefs put this in their gazpacho because to give it that flavor, but supposedly it's not a good idea. But if you do find eating gazpacho that you feel like tomato leaf, some chefs do put a little bit.
Also, can you just, because again, being taught in the back kitchen earlier, go into a little bit the history of the tomatoes in Spain? Because I got it wrong, so you had to educate me.
So the tomatoes came to Spain first.
Through Latin America.
Very early, but people used them as a sweet product. So in pastry books in the 1700s, you have recipes with tomatoes that are sweet. And then in 1745, they had the first recipe that was savory. And that was a game changer. A monk wrote a recipe about tomato sauce. And then it was included in gazpacho, but gazpacho originally didn't have tomatoes. But it was a pounded soup that people had with garlic, or you've seen a version with almonds, like ajo blanco. But this soup is really the most iconic soup in Spain. And also it's the soup that when you go to the doctor and you say, I'm not feeling well in the summer, they say, have you been having enough gazpacho? As my Irish husband was told. So they said, how much gazpacho do you drink a day? And he said, none. And the doctor said, well, you're going to have to change that because this is what keeps you going in Spain. So if you're going on holiday to Spain, get gazpacho.
Yeah. So what we've done, I'm just going to quickly, and then you can get on to the Sinigang, because the gazpacho is actually really, really simple. I've just chopped up. We're using a Thermomix, but you could use a normal blender as well. Really just, you didn't even have to chop the vegetables, but we've put in the tomatoes, the strawberries, half an onion, a garlic clove, some cucumber, and we're going to put in our oil and sherry vinegar and a little bit of sea salt, and I'm going to just blend that up. We're actually going to get some samples out of gazpacho to you guys to try as well, so that'll be nice. And then you can plow on with that while I blend here.
So Sinigang, you need water, and you add the tomatoes, so some medium-sized tomato,
to get a
some
spoon.
onion that you chop. You don't want it too small, you want it kind of coarse, so if you go to the grain store and you see the painting, the drawing, it's a chunky soup. So you put the onion, the tomatoes, and then you put a little bit of fish sauce, maybe like 2 tablespoons. It's a very delicate, it's almost like I can see someone in TikTok doing a recipe and saying like, diet Sinigang, because it is so ethereal, it's so light. And then you put the radish, and you could put the chili. If you don't like too much chili, you can put it like this, just to seed the chili. These are finger chilies, and put it just to give it a flavor, yeah. And then I'm gonna put half of this packet, and it's a very quick soup to make, yeah? And the snake, these are the snake beans. So in Spanish, it's funny, this is called a raw soup, en crudo. So you're saying I'm cooking, because you don't have anything fried, there's no sofrito at all in here. Okay. So I'm gonna let that cook, and then you finish it off by adding okra. I don't know, has everybody tried okra? Yeah? And then this, which wilts extremely quickly, so you need to buy it and use it straight away. And there's two shops in Dublin, Filipino shops called Pinoy Sari Sari. And May, would you talk about the Filipino cookbook from last
Yes.
time? Yeah.
And they actually presented Richie Castillo and Alex O'Neill, and their book is called Masarap, and they're such terrific people. And
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. I just don't want May to be heard, that's all. I'll turn this off for a minute while you talk.
Yeah.
Put on
but
low.
they're, would you say it's like a restaurant endeavor? So it's kind of pop up, behave.
They just kind of call it a food entrepreneurship, and they have a food truck. They've done restaurant pop-ups. They do events. They do festivals. They're bringing out some products, hopefully, and they also. They just plan to build it up over time, but yeah, and obviously the cookbook as well. The guys are amazing.
They're
Definitely follow
also
them.
really nerdy. So when we talk to Richie Castillo, you're just learning so much like about the fruit, calamansi, and this influence, and so.
Yeah. I'll put this one out here as well,
Definitely.
so you guys can see it.
Banana ketchup.
I'm glad Richie's not here because he'd be thinking, what are they doing? Sorry. Okay, so we're
Okay.
going to bring this up to a boil.
I'm going to turn this back
Yeah.
on for a minute.
Yeah. And then, does anybody here have a Thermomix? I saw since Rachel started working a little bit with Thermomix, sales in Ireland have really taken off.
Caitlin, that has strawberries in it.
And I highly recommend, if you're busy, it's a great tool to have. It's expensive, but it lasts for a long time. And chefs have Nevin McGuire apparently has
Yeah.
5 or 6, yeah.
How long do you reckon will I on number
More,
5?
and then turn it up a little bit. You have to blitz it for, yeah, okay. When
Okay,
I don't
we
wanna
get the
hear my-
idea.
yeah,
Don't
when I
want to
don't
be
wanna-
blending the whole time.
Okay. When I don't want to hear my husband, I just start blitzing stuff to tone him out. Okay, so we need to bring this to a boil, and you can see, can you see in the
Yeah.
video? Yeah.
They can
And
see
then
it
you
overhead.
need to test that, especially the snake beans are cooked. And these obviously
How
cook
do you
really
know that
quickly.
they're cooked when you say
You
to
have
taste?
to take them out,
Okay.
I take them out and try and
Do you want
bite
a
them, yeah.
fork or something?
Yeah. Okay. It's still going to need a little bit longer.
Okay.
But this tamarind broth is really, really delicious, and you can make this tamarind broth with so many other ingredients. You could use tofu, you could use chicken. It's really, there's so many variations of sinigang.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that I really liked about it is we served it with rice,
Yeah.
and it is a kind of a sour taste, but it's just really beautiful, and the rice kind of gives it that almost earthiness that kind of grounds the soup, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really have this soup with bread or anything. It wouldn't be served that way anyway, but it's just also, I don't think it kind of lends itself, for me
No,
personally.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the rice is perfect.
Even though in the Philippines they have a lot of breads.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having it with any.
I feel like
Filipino
this
bread.
is one of the sort of more, in certain ways, Chinese-y,
Yeah.
Chinese-y leaning
Yeah.
of the Philippine cuisines,
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the Almodovar film and the
Oh, yes.
Gazpacho? Because that's a really funny story. Is anyone, I'm not pronouncing his name properly.
Almodovar, the film director.
So
Have you
sorry, I
yeah.
literally massacred that. I'm so sorry.
It's the movie Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Perfect, thank you.
So in that movie, the woman, the actress, has gazpacho and she puts tranquilizers in it. So in Spain, she blends the tranquilizers. In Spain, it's kind of like a joke, oh, did you put tranquilizers in your gazpacho? But gazpacho to me is a really feminine, healthy
Yeah.
dish.
Yeah.
And everyone in Spain used to make it and freeze it and have it, and now obviously we buy it.
And it's quite common as well not to be served in, today we're putting it in these little cute bowls, but Blanca brought this beautiful glass as well, but it is common to be served in a glass
In a
more
normal
so
glass,
than
yeah.
in that. That's why we keep just saying it is really more of a smoothie than a soup.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely beautiful when I just feel like when it's hot outside, like when the temperature is hot, it's a lovely soup to have. Yeah.
Also, Blanca, can you just talk a little bit about the region where Gazpacho came from?
Well, Gazpacho is from Andalusia. So Andalusia is really, when we think of Spanish food, we associate Spanish food with the south of Spain, even though we have other regions. And that was because the government of Spain, like, we forget how important like tourism boards are in promoting the food of a country or the culture. So if you look at Spain, it's always been like the flamenco dress since like the 30s and 40s. The tourism board wanted to promote that image, and they wanted to promote Gazpacho, and so they've created the narrative of how foreigners see Spain. But in reality, Spain is so varied, and people in Asturias are more Irish, and they eat a lot of steak, and they have cider, and they wouldn't have Gazpacho. But Gazpacho is really the Andalusian soup, and anybody who's been there, and it's 42 degrees, you'll understand why. And in the 80s, a company called Al Valle started mass-produced Tetra Brick Gazpacho, and that was a game changer because everybody could buy it ready-made. And then it went to France, and it's funny, the French used an advertising with this gorgeous man with Gazpacho, and it was like a huge seller. Once they put this man, but in Spain, their advertising was farmers. So I guess in every country they use different advertising.
Definitely.
But obviously French women think Spanish men are really sexy.
I was just going to say also, back to the Almodovar, massacring the pronunciation, the film, one of the characters who gets drugged with the gazpacho is a very young Antonio Banderas.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
We also, in the book, kind of talked a little bit about, because we did it in the podcast, about what soup means to us. And I suppose, like we said, we've all had this different journey with soup. And for me, when I was growing up in Tipperary, I'm one of 5 children, and my mum died when I was really small. So my dad brought me up, and it was packet soups, like Knorr packet soups was what I was brought up on, with like maybe a batch loaf or Brennan's bread sliced with like slathered in butter, and that's what we would have every Saturday. But I kind of tell this story about how my dad became this kind of master blender of Knorr packet soups, because we would never have like a straight up packet of soup that was like for lay people. Like, we had basically this, he just took such pride in it. In the corner press, we had these like really retro now, like kind of 70s Irish kitchen. It was like bright green cupboards, and when you opened up the corner, it had that shelf that turned out like that, and in it there was a Tupperware box without a lid on it, and it was like a row of packet soups neatly in a row, and they would all be opened and turned down so neatly to keep them pristine, the powder inside. And he would have a cream of a variety of things. So cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, and then you'd have your vegetable varieties, and then you would have maybe something very glamorous in there, an exotic, like chicken noodle or something like that. Oh yes, and Nikki actually created a laugh and blend Knorr packet soup illustration for the book, which I adore. I must actually get that framed. But so every weekend you'd be like, what are you having? And he'd be over there like before he put the water in, and he'd just put in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'd be like, what is it today? But it was kind of running joke, and I kind of immortalized it in the book, which I don't know if he was very happy about, but he said he never got that carried away, and I was like, you have no idea, we weren't allowed do it. But I just think, that was for me, and I, like, even now, as much as I always make my own soups, but I think if I was really, really sick or something, you just have these nostalgia for something that you just had as a child, and something that made you feel just so amazing. And I would roll the Brennan's bread, because obviously it's like flat, like by the time you put that amount of butter on it, it's like pita or something, and you can just roll it and then just dunk the roll into the as a vessel for the actual soup and just suck the soup out of the bread. I mean, I'm actually salivating just thinking about it.
Sorry, I'm going to put the okra in here, yeah?
Oh yeah,
in the soup.
okra.
And then
you wouldn't find that when I was
oh,
growing up,
sorry?
for sure.
Yeah.
No way. Oh my God, I had a courgette for the first time when I was 18. Like, it's just, you
Okra
wouldn't,
is a little bit difficult.
very,
yeah.
very different.
It's, well, okra is Marmite, right? I mean, you either love it
So
or you
slimy.
don't. It's very slimy.
But it's
I
not
love it.
But I like it
slimy.
now,
If
yeah.
You need to be careful not to overcook it, and also you need to make sure when you buy it to wrap it in wet like towels and put it in the fridge, and don't leave it for like 3 days because it gets really, really slimy. And then I'm gonna add the prawns, and then in the end this. But it's such a beautiful soup. If you smell it, it's like I feel like I'm in. I feel like I'm not in Ireland. Like smell that tamarind.
Yeah.
But I'd never had tamarind savory before I encountered this soup in Indian food. But as a broth instead of as a juice, I was like, what? This is so bizarre. Yeah.
I'm actually just curious. What would be, because we might have also all argued amongst ourselves about substitutions occasionally, but what, Blanca, would you think would be maybe an acceptable substitute for the fish sauce?
Well, for
And-
this, for the I think
Turnip,
for the
I think,
fish
for
sauce,
the-
yeah.
Turnip,
For
yeah.
this, there's no substitute. Really.
Okay.
No.
But this could be turnip, and you could use peas, green beans.
I mean, I do feel with the fish
Carrots.
sauce, if you're not using fish sauce, you can use kind of like, shrimp or prawns or something. If they're not already in there, you can kind of, but it doesn't give as much of a
Yeah.
taste,
Or
but you can.
I
if
mean,
you
I was
can't
just
get it.
even think like, no, definitely not Worcestershire, right? But like
No,
because but
no.
it's got the anchovy and it's got the sweetness. I mean, you
Too
wouldn't,
salty,
right?
I think, as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need, like, I mean, obviously this is like a key ingredient, yeah. But this also, and I've grown to like turnip a lot, so I would buy it and use it, like cube it really small, and carrot you could put. And if you go to the Filipino store, they have like a package for soups, and the same in the Polish store. You go and they have like your borscht kit. So when people say, oh, how can you make borscht so easily? I'm like, oh, I just go to the Polish store and I get the packet of Polish borscht. And it has the beetroot, it has the horseradish, so it's so easy. So the same in the Filipino, if you look, they have kits of soups. So you can say, I want to make sinigang, and it's much cheaper than buying the ingredients separated. So I'm going to add this now.
And I'm going to do one last big
Yeah.
blitz of this, so sorry
And
for
for
2
blending the
seconds.
gazpacho, you really have to blend it, yeah.
Sorry. You just want to get it, I mean, you want to give it a really good blitz. I mean, that's the main thing. The great thing about the Thermomix is that you can get that really great texture. Yeah.
So we're going to plate that, yeah.
Like, and do you want to plate?
Okay, so the Morning Glory, because it traveled for so long in the car, it's a little bit wilted, but I'm just gonna put it at the end. Yeah.
I actually, it's one of my favorite illustrations in the soup book is the Sinigang.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so
It's
nice.
It's so pretty. Hold on one sec.
It's such a beautiful soup. So yeah. So with the tiger prawns, they cook very quickly. So and then you would serve it. I would always serve it with a little bit of the fish sauce on the side. So I'm gonna put that. And we really worked with Nikki and Kristen to get like the right dishes that match the soup. I think for a long time the trend was that you had like white plates for everything. And we were like, no, we don't agree because nobody would serve this like this. So we tried to search and borrow like a Korean bowl and things like that. Yeah.
it's such a pretty
You go like,
Yeah.
the camera's actually above us.
Oh,
That
great.
makes sense.
Okay.
You can kind of see it, yeah. Anyway, it's in the grain storage, definitely go.
And I'm gonna put some
Here's your
black
notes.
pepper in the soup, but one thing about gazpacho is Spanish food does not use black pepper. And I was listening to JP yesterday talk about, he doesn't use black pepper in his Irish restaurant in Anyar, but in Spain, gazpacho or paella, you never use black pepper. So, but in Sinigang, it's a key ingredient to use it, so I'm gonna...
What did you guys think of the gazpacho? Did you like it? It's so nice, isn't it?
I think
Take
these are
words
two
I
of our
thought I'd never say.
summariest soups.
Yeah, these two are very summery soups, yeah. And you want this to be like a meal. Yeah, and you would serve it like, I'm gonna put this a little bit to cook. And then you always serve we wrote a chapter about what are the side dishes that go with each soup. So is it bread? Is it rice? Is it croutons? May
Or
loves
plantain, a lot of,
I do.
but not like made ones. You like?
I love canned soups, Campbell's soups, and ready-made croutons. And saltines.
And saltines,
I have no shame.
which they serve in America with like chowders.
plantain was another one, which again, the Nigerian one, and also Trinidadian as well. We're saying plantain as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually the Trinidadian corn soup is one we've done a lot in demos, and I make a lot at home now. Absolutely love it. Again, a corn soup, not something necessarily that I would have been familiar with. Maybe corn, like in sweet corn in or something like that as an ingredient. But this is a blended corn soup. No wonder I like it. But it's really, really lovely. Has a little kick to it. But again, with Trinidadian cuisine, and like a lot of the soups in there, you can tailor the heat to your own taste. But they would naturally in Trinidad have it quite hot.
And also, you like to serve it with little toast soldiers.
Yeah, well, that was actually JD, who is the author of the recipe and is bringing out a blaster book as well. Yay! He likes to serve it with kind of like almost like soldiers or little kind of crostinis of toast, and just dipped in it, and it really works. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is really
it's really
nice.
lovely. It's a great soup. We've served that a lot, and people love it.
Yeah.
You can see how beautiful this soup is. Like,
Yes.
it's just one of those. I think soup is a visual thing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's like,
Visual.
I mean, the gazpacho is just so colorful, and the sinigang is just such beautiful with all the vegetables and the shrimps. So,
Well, it depends. Some of the best tasting soups are beige.
it's true. Or like was it the Georgian soup?
Oh yeah, the chakapuli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was quite brown.
Yeah, that was very brown.
But it
I
was
mean,
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite flavors tend to be beige.
And the Moroccan soup as well. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's been so much fun exploring it. And like we all had our own, your soup in the book is the gazpacho.
The gazpacho, yeah.
And yours was the chicken.
Congee.
Oh, turkey congee.
Oh, the turkey congee, yeah.
Yeah, because it's what you have the day after Thanksgiving. When you got leftover turkey and everyone's sort of stuffed, and then you're doing the rice porridge, and and that's just a staple.
Yeah, and I did the Everest garlic soup, which was just kind of, I didn't make it up as such, but I trekked up to Everest Base Camp, and on the way up they give you garlic soup like before every meal, breakfast, lunch and dinner, because the garlic thins your blood and that helps with altitude sickness. But different lodges that you stop in, there would be different versions, and I had a couple of definitely like raw garlic, like just like garlic just in floating in water, which was not pleasant. But then in other places, they just had this beautiful creamy garlic soup, and I had never really had or enjoyed garlic soup in that way. And I think also it was just such a, after trekking and you're just so low in energy because you're not getting enough oxygen at altitudes of 4,000 plus. So like when I sat down and just to have this beautiful soups and getting to speak with all the people up there who are just the most beautiful people in the world, because they've lived up in the mountains their whole lives, and they just love people and chatting to tourists and people who go up there trekking and hiking. So yeah, for me it's a very special soup now, and I love making it. Yeah. And you actually have a story with garlic soup as well.
Yeah,
It meant something to
because-
you as well.
My father is from Castilla León, and that's like inland, no sea, and men from there are very serious. Like my mom always said, the most boring men live in Castilla León, and I married one. But they have this garlic soup, and it's, I don't know if you've done the Camino and you've gone through León, they always serve it. And it costs, a glass of wine and the soup costs €1.50. And it's just bread, paprika, like pimenton, and garlic, and like a chicken broth. And it's the most amazing soup. But my mom made gazpacho, and my dad had garlic soup. And like Dee, he wasn't very keen on gazpacho. He was like, I'm not having that. So I was torn between those two soups.
Yeah.
That like my mom loved this like exuberant, like, oh, it's in all the famous movies and it's so colorful, and the other soup is like ugly and cheap. And anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
in between those two soups.
So there are two soups, strawberry gazpacho and Filipino sinigang. So I hope you guys enjoyed the samples of gazpacho. And if you have any more questions, we're doing a book signing in the shed, I think, straight away after this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.